Hey everybody, and welcome to Sunday. I'm glad you're with us here on the channel for the live chat. Good to have everybody on board. I want to get a few things going here so everybody can get on board once they get the notification. For those of you who watch this regularly, maybe I've talked about it in the past or people have commented on wristwatches. I do have another YouTube channel called Watch This. Watch This. And after this live show is done, I'll put the link down below, and I'd love for you to go over and subscribe. And I have been really bad at adding new content to that channel. And now I've committed to doing more content, and I put a few videos up in the last couple of weeks. Okay, Instagram, thanks again to everybody that signs up at Instagram. Go to Motormouth_auto. You'll find it there, and please follow along. And Facebook, a lot of the news stories that have been coming out about, like the LA Auto Show. I posted a lot of stuff about that on there. Also about the General Motors closures in Canada and the US. I put a lot of stories out over the last week on that. It was just last week when we were doing the live chat that news broke. So any kind of news and information and some silly videos and things I put on Facebook. So if you're really interested in what's coming out every day, I try to put 2 or 3 different stories that I see online and I repost them. So go to Facebook and type in Motormouth, like the page, and you'll get all the notifications. So I'm going to be on the road, not this week, not this coming week, the first week of December. Next week I leave on the 10th, which is good because it's the day after the live chat. I'm heading to Abu Dhabi to test drive the e-tron from Audi. They're all-electric SUV, and that's going to be really exciting to do that. And I already have my tickets to go to Spain to drive the all-new 911, the 992. It was just shown at the LA Auto Show this week. There's been lots of spy photos and what have you about it. So in the end of January, I'm going to be in Spain driving the all-new 911. And then I'll be going to a big international motor show, the Geneva show. So that's what's going on. Thanks to everybody that tunes in regularly. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. I've written down the majority of the new reveals that were shown at the LA Auto Show. Mike Gurr was down there doing a video. Still waiting for it, but that's going to be up soon. We're doing a top 5 of the LA Auto Show. All right, let's jump into the show. Charlottetown Spud, a regular viewer, has been mentioned here the last few weeks. Looking at a 2019 Civic Si, mainly because I want a manual again. However, I just saw your ILX review. You seem like you like it. Can you make a case for it over the Si? Which did you prefer? Cheers. It says cheers, Zach, not him, me. Well, you know what? This video went up yesterday, and there seems to be a whole lot of interest. It's outperforming most of the channel in terms of people are interested. And I think one of the things is, and I noticed that a lot here on YouTube, entry-level premium or prestige brand cars do particularly well. Like when the CLA came out for Mercedes-Benz a few years ago, that was a car that had a lot of interest. So I think a lot of people are in the mindset, you know, I buy a mainline car or I stretch just a little bit to get a premium car. So I think that's one of the reasons it's so popular. And what I think that Charlottetown Spud is talking about is when I talk about driving the car, it is a whole lot of fun to drive. It's got a 201 horsepower, 2.4 liter 4-cylinder. And the unique thing is it's got an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Now, if you want to get back into a manual transmission, the Si is going to be your better choice because this is only available with the 8-speed. But I was really taken by this car. It starts at the same price as the Civic Si, goes up to $35,000 in the Canadian market. Keep in mind, these are Canadian dollars to get the fully loaded A-Spec that I drove. So can I make a case for it? Absolutely. You get 1 year extra warranty. You get the a known and proven 2.4 liter engine that's been around, used by Honda and Acura for many years. It is, the dual clutch works as advertised. It's really quite responsive. And the other thing is that you get the premium brand experience at the dealer level. The Acura dealer, you know, they're giving you a little bit more in terms of customer satisfaction. So what I say to everybody that asks me these things, please go and drive them both and see what you like. But the only thing, 2 negatives against this ILX. First, it's on the previous gen Civic platform, and the engine is recommended to use premium gas. All right, Joe says, please talk about the Honda Passport. What I know about the Passport, it just was announced at the LA Auto Show this week, is that there seems to be no end to slicing the SUV pie ever thinner. So Honda already has the Pilot. The Passport really is going to be an off-road, rugged-looking version of that, but I don't really see anything other, and the initial stuff has just come out on it, that it's more about cosmetics than anything else. We'll have to see more about the differences in suspension or what have you, but right now, to me, it looks more like a styling exercise. Abdullah says, hey, I'm stuck between an A7 Prestige and a Q8 Prestige. What would you recommend? Well, these are totally different vehicles. One is a low-slung coupe-like sedan, and the other one is an SUV. It's quite a big SUV that just has a slightly more cropped roof and a little bit sleeker look. The Q8 really is an A7, but with 2 rows of seats and a much sleeker appearance. But underneath is a lot of the same things. The engine is different though. This has the new 3-liter turbocharged engine, where the Q7 uses the older engine, the 333 horsepower version. So you have to really decide what you want. I had an Audi A7, that was my last car. We just got rid of it last March and we moved into a Cayenne, and we love both. I love the A7. I think it is absolutely a beautiful car. So you have to decide which one you want. Greg, I saw the first Kona EV on the streets of Montreal this weekend. Pretty sharp. Any idea on the Canadian pricing for it? I wonder what was doing on the street to Montreal. No, I don't think we have had the announcement yet. I don't believe so, unless I missed it. So please shed some light on that. Maybe while I'm talking, someone can go over to the Hyundai website and see if the price is being announced, but I don't believe so. So I'm not sure. It's going to be really tricky for them to price this vehicle. It's got more range than the Bolt, but they need to come in at a price that's going to be competitive. So I think in the Canadian market, it's got to be right around 40 grand or $41,000. Hussein says, thoughts on the Hyundai Palisade. The Palisade replaces the Santa Fe XL, okay? So now there's a new Santa Fe came out this summer, and I did a review on the channel, and then the 3-row, 7-passenger vehicle is now going to be rebadged. The Santa Fe XL is going to be made for the rest of this year, and then for next year, they're going to bring out this Palisade. Now, it looks really cool from some angles. From one angle, to me, it looks a little bit like a hearse. Now, when you have a moment, go and check out the pictures of it. The back cargo area has a bit of a hearse look to it. I don't know. So yeah, Hyundai Palisade, yet another SUV. And you see what happened a week ago with the announcement from General Motors shuttering plants in Canada and the US, because the market has moved so quickly to SUVs over the last 3 years that these car manufacturers often have been left flat-footed with car production. Here's a number that'll shock you. And I know this because I follow, obviously, I live in Canada, the Canadian numbers. The Oshawa assembly plant just outside of Toronto that they're going to be closing at the end of next year. The good news for the people that work there is they have pretty much almost a year's notice to look for other work. Is that that factory, as early as 2003, so 15 years ago, made almost 1 million vehicles. Think about that. One factory made almost 1 million vehicles. I think it was 960,000. Last year, they made 125,000. So that's a massive drop. So basically a tenth of the vehicles that they used to make. And that's why you can't keep an infrastructure like that going. It's real crappy news for the people that work there, but there you go. Ryan, follow up to that. Appears the death of the sedan is near for GM, Ford, and FCA, all announcing the elimination of most passenger cars, albeit at different times. Would you ever buy a sedan again? Yeah, I think, here's a prediction, and it's not going to be a long timeline on this. This is not going to be a short timeline. It's going to be a long timeline. I think we're going to go through this whole SUV craze, and then what is not cool is all of a sudden going to be cool again. Car companies might come out with something really sleek and sexy and fun that's a car. And one of the theories that has been talked about by some executives is that you don't want to drive what your parents drive, right? So people that grew up with an SUV in their family, say they always had a CRV or a RAV4 or whatever the SUV is. Do you really want to buy your parents' car, or are you going to want to buy something new? So there is a theory afoot that as people get older, they might want to revert back to cars. I see no evidence of that right now. In the Canadian market, same thing. It's the market I follow. It's almost 75% SUVs and trucks, and only 25% cars. So there are still going to be cars in the marketplace, but there are going to be clear winners and clear losers. The clear losers are General Motors, FCA, and Ford. The clear winners are the Japanese import brands. Volkswagen is the one outlier from Germany for mainline cars, and the Koreans, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see how many more of these fall by the wayside. I predict that cars now in the next few years will all have cladding on them. They'll all be raised up just a little bit to look like utilities and have all-wheel drive. Seems like everything's going that way. Do you agree if Nissan kind of disappointed at the LA show? Well, what they showed was the new Maxima and an updated Murano, but yeah, nothing really earth-shattering there. But we still have the Detroit show, so we'll have to wait and see. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile, still one of the best names on here. Thoughts on the new Mazda 3? Well, I don't like the look of it. A lot of people just love the look of this new Mazda 3. I think it looks fantastic from the front. From the back, it's got a huge D-pillar, or C-pillar, I guess, depending on which trim you're looking at. And the lights at the back look too small. They've got MX-5 Miata lights almost on the back. And it looks kind of small. And here's the big thing. No more independent rear suspension, which I'm sure is a cost savings and a manufacturing cost savings. But I got to say, you know, one of the greatest things about the Mazda 3 has been its superior handling over many years. But the proof is in the driving. A perfect example of this is, and you can go and watch my review, and you can read and watch other people's reviews on this. The new Jetta did exactly the same. They moved away from independent rear suspension and they went back to a torsion beam rear suspension. But when you drive that car, boy, did they do a good job with it. And you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. So have to wait to drive it. But at first, look at the Mazda 3, especially the hatchback. At first, you look at it and you go, ooh, that's pretty sleek looking. But then you start looking at certain angles. I'm not totally sold on it. Please do a test drive of the all-wheel drive 19 Prius. And on the Camry TRD, please. Yeah, so these are, a lot of people are commenting on the new vehicles that have been announced. So it seems to me that Toyota is going to TRD everything. So you've got brands that are coming out with, you know, Audi has S-Line, you have M, you have AMG, and now mainline brands are coming out with, you know, their performance models or their appearance packages. Like there's the Acura as a perfect example. They now have A-Spec through their line. So TRD is spreading through the Toyota family. So yeah, we'll have to wait to get that. And Prius is an all-wheel drive now, an all-wheel drive Prius with an electronic motor in the back. So it's an E all-wheel drive. But here's the thing about Prius. Wait for it. Here's what I think is going to happen. Not with this iteration, the next one. They'll raise it up. They'll put cladding on it. They'll make it look like a utility vehicle. Guarantee it. Were you expecting news on the Rogue, maybe the variable compression turbo in the Murano or Maxima? I'm really surprised about the fact that they didn't announce that for the Maxima. What I've read about Maxima and where I think they're going with it is they're wanting to keep that as their high end. Obviously, it competes almost with premium brands with a V6 engine. And part of the reason is because they don't have a V6 in Ultima anymore, and that needs to compete with Camry on some level. So you have Camry, Avalon, both with V6 engines, so they needed to keep Maxima there as an alternative to people looking at that product. So that's what I think is going on there. The Rogue certainly needs to be updated soon. Yeah, so Nissan did not do a ton at this show, but we're not done with auto shows yet. There's always another one in a few months. So the next one is the Detroit Auto Show, and then it's the Geneva Motor Show in March, pretty soon after that. Mo Anthony, Love the show. Thoughts on the new Soul since we now saw a look at the LA show? Any idea of release date? All of these things are still subject to notification from the manufacturer on when they're going to announce it. Now, I wasn't at the LA show. Here's what happened this year. Last year, I got 5 invites to the LA Auto Show, and I can't even remember who I went with. But anyway, I had 5 invites. This year I had 1. I gave it to Mike because I thought, well, there's going to be another one. I'll get to go with another manufacturer. So Mike went, and another one did not come, but doesn't really matter. You can read all about it now because we have a wonderful thing called the internet. Yeah, no news on when a lot of these cars are going to be announced. But you know, if they're announcing them at the LA show in November or December, they'll be in the spring, summer of next year, most of them. Some might be in the fall. What's your view on the 19 Ford Edge? Don't really have an opinion on that. Rafi says, C43 or 340, which one would you pick? Personally, I would go with the 340. I just think that the inline 6-cylinder from BMW is one of the best engines ever made. And it's just spectacular. For me, that's where it starts. Now, you could argue that the Mercedes interior is nicer. There's lots of different pros and cons on each. I think the BMW iDrive system is better than the command system they have in this current generation C-Class. They're going to go to the MBUX system for upgrades as we go along. But right now, it would be the 340. When are you reviewing the new Mazda 3? Well, it was just announced this week. Everybody just slow down, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. We have to find out, first of all, when they're, I will get invited to these things. There is a Mazda event for CX-5 here in Whistler next week, but I'm going to be in Abu Dhabi, so I can't make it to that one. Ushan says, hey Zach, in terms of maintenance costs between BMW, Mercedes, and Audi, how do they rank? I'm aware of that when leasing. BMW has prepaid maintenance sort of built into the cost. What about the others? Mercedes and Audi do not have that. That is an advantage with BMW, that you get 3 years of maintenance included in the Canadian market. So it's obviously a pretty good idea to lease a car for 3 years, and then you've got your everything's covered. So that is something to consider. If you just look at the data, the hard data, Mercedes-Benz is below the other two when it comes to quality. And this is anecdotal evidence now. When you get into, Mercedes-Benz, I've heard some horror stories from Audi. In my experience, having owned an Audi, I think that they make some, the quality has improved so much with those cars. But if you're leasing the car, I say that, a BMW isn't a bad way to go because you do get it covered. So your basic monthly payments are your payments, and you're not going to get any surprises. There are wear and tear items, though, like tires and brakes. Any news on what Chrysler will do with the 300? With the Impala and the Taurus now, do you think Chrysler will keep the 300 going? I've heard that that's gone. I think the Charger is a better seller. And when you go down to the United States, there's a lot of Chargers on the road. The interesting thing about the Chrysler 300 and the Charger and the Challenger, the two-door version, is that they are FCA's highest quality cars. If you look at quality studies through the years, these are the cars that score the best. And they're legacy cars, have been around for a long time, and they're actually very nice cars to drive. I really enjoy every time I drive one. They're kind of dated, yeah, but they're still a fine driving machine. So we'll have to wait and see what the plans are. Is Chrysler going to be sticking around? If the 300 goes away, all you've got is Pacifica. That isn't a brand, right? So maybe they'll roll Pacifica into a Dodge nameplate. You might call it the Dodge Pacifica. Why not? And then they can just, unfortunately, fold Chrysler and just keep Dodge, Ram, and Jeep. Akash, hey Zach, big fan from Toronto. I got a new car this week. Just wanted to know what I should do to protect my car from a hit and run. What you should do to protect your car from a hit and run. Don't get in a hit and run. I don't know how you protect a car from a hit and run. Don't park in a somewhere where there are a lot of hit and runs. I don't know what you can do to protect yourself from that. Are you saying how do you protect yourself against depreciation? I don't really know what your question is. Sorry. Jimbo says, hi from Montreal. Love your show and reviews. Keep up the great work. Appreciate that. MA says, Zach, would you choose and why? Camry V6, use Mercedes E-Class so they at the same price? Well, this is a tricky one because with any used product, you're looking at the previous owner's maintenance and repairs. And what I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm thinking a V6 Camry around $35,000, $36,000. A used E-Class is going to be probably 4 or 5 years old, I would think, to be around the same price. So it all comes down to the work and the maintenance that's been done on the car. Now, there is no question that the Mercedes has already hit its steepest part of its depreciation curve. But you're getting into a situation where you have an older E-Class car, and we all know what's happening with cars. Cars don't seem to be in favor, so then in 2 or 3 or 4 years, you're going to be selling a 6, 7, 8-year-old E-Class. What's it going to be worth? It has hit its steepest part of its depreciation, but it doesn't stop, of course. This is a really tough one. So you have to know the history, the repairs, all of the information about the E-Class to know if it's something that you would consider. Now, you've got to add on maintenance. It's going to be much, much more expensive to maintain an E-Class over 3 or 4 years versus a brand new Camry, which basically needs nothing other than regular scheduled maintenance, which is, once a year. Richard Filippone says, Zach, can you convert into non-metric for USA peeps, please? No, and I'll tell you why. Because you're the only country in the world that isn't metric. Get with it. It's just the stubborn way of the United States, and they refuse to go metric. It's not hard. Metric is very easy. And yes, I understand the frustration, but my channel, I'm Canadian. I do most of my work in Canada. So once in a while I throw in some imperial measurements there, but yeah, no, I'm not. Juliet, Zach, I currently own the last generation Tiguan. I'm just curious if the European version of the T-Roc or the T-Cross will be migrating here to North America since VW doesn't offer a compact SUV. There will be a smaller SUV beneath the Tiguan. It is not going to be the T-Roc. I was in Wolfsburg in August. I did a video of the Autostadt. If you haven't watched that video, go back to the channel and look, and you'll see I think it's a Volkswagen van there. You click on that video. It's a tour of the Autostadt, which is like Disneyland for car lovers, anything Volkswagen. And we had a chance to drive a T-Roc there, which I loved, and it looks fantastic. It's a great looking product. But no, we are not getting a T-Roc. I have no idea why, but we are going to get something else. And maybe an announcement will be coming soon, but we will be getting something. By the way, the Q3 is based on the shorter wheelbase version of the European Tiguan. So that is an alternative. Martin says, Martin 29 Holland, it's a Deutsch or, no, I don't think it's Dutch. I think it's Dutch. It's not German, Dutch. Sorry. Stefan Cumberland, since the Integra is gone, Acura doesn't have it. Well, Acura certainly has it when it comes to SUVs. And this is the case for a lot of brands. They're turning into SUV brands. Like Volvo has some fantastic sedans and station wagons, but nobody buys them. They buy the 40, the 60, and the 90 of their SUVs. And it's the same thing for Acura. Like, this is a good effort. It's a refreshed car. It's not expensive in terms of premium brands, but their RDX, when I went to pick it up, I said, how's the RDX selling? And they said, man, it's like hotcakes. And the MDX is the best-selling premium SUV. So they've got an A-spec for that. So yeah, you can say a brand has lost it in terms of cars, but I would say that that brand is doing well when it comes to SUVs. Pedro Canuck, hey Zach, why don't we get the VW California camper vans in North America? Thank you. Because they would probably be about $100,000. When they had the Eurovan, the last Eurovan with the VR6 engine, the long wheelbase one, it was a beauty. It was a great vehicle. And those things are going for huge money now. The last year they brought that vehicle into Canada, it was over $80,000. It was the Westphalia version of it. So I think that if they were to bring that California camper here to North America, I think it would be cost prohibitive. I think that's the reason why. Hero Zero says, hey Zach, are you doing a Hyundai Kona review soon? I'm waiting for your takes. The video is on the channel. Go back and search. I did it in the summer. There is one. Go and watch it. It's already on the channel. Stefan says, Kia hit a home run with the new Kia Soul, mostly with the Suburb Green EV. Yeah, so you've got to remember that, you know, Hyundai, Kia, same company. You've got over at Hyundai, you've got the Kona Electric, and look, a Kia Soul came just after it. What a shock. And then that'll be the base, that's the basis of the Niro. It's all shared technology. And I love the Soul. I think it's a great product. The gas, so you might remember a few years ago, everybody was trying to take on the Kia Soul. There was the Cube from Nissan. What's another one? Oh, you had the Scion cars, all of these other vehicles, and they all died away. And who won the battle? The Kia Soul. And the Kia Soul is loved from 16 to 80-year-olds. Everybody in between loves it. I think it's a great product. They did a really nice job with the one that you can buy today, so I can't wait to try the new one. And the Soul EV is definitely interesting to see how that is. Van City 604, hey Zach, should auto on-off ignition, auto on-off ignition, does it hurt the engine in any way to have the engine start? I don't believe so, no. I don't think it hurts it in any way. And you got to remember, what's the number one thing that it will not work when the car is cold. So once the car is warmed up and the oil is through the system, and no, I don't think it's going to hurt it in any way. It won't do it when it's cold. The engine has to be warmed up, and the number one thing is the catalytic converter and the emission system has to be up and operating to temperature in order for it to work. Thoughts on the new Volkswagen Touareg? Touareg's beautiful. It looks a lot like the Audi Q8, but just a tiny bit smaller. Similar kind of digital dashes and all that kind of stuff. We are not getting it in North America. We are going to be getting a 2-row, 5-passenger version of Atlas, which the Atlas has sold incredibly well. And the good news is, that is going to be sort of just like the Q8, a little bit more of a cropped roof, a little bit sportier looking, and they've shown a concept of it. I believe it was at the New York show earlier this year in April. So the good news is they're going to be able to bring it in at a lower price than the Touareg could ever be sold for. Problem with Touareg, it was a premium product from a non-premium brand. So they were charging Audi, BMW, Mercedes money for a Volkswagen. A great product, but no, we're not going to get the Touareg here. Yale says, hey Zach, you've got me stoked on the G70 over the new Ram truck 1500. Would you go for, oh sorry, you've got me stoked on the G70. Would you go for that over the new Ram 1500? Why don't you get a Ram 1500 and tow the G70 behind it? Could you pick two different vehicles? Honestly, the Ram truck, a colleague of mine, David Booth, who writes for the National Post and Driving.ca, did an interesting story a few weeks ago about for every electric car sold in Canada, once again I'm in the Canadian market, 9 new pickup trucks have been sold, full-size pickup trucks. For every new EV that's been registered over the last 5 years or so, there's been 9 new full-size pickup trucks. And pickup trucks are now turning into a premium choice for a lot of people. This might be a perfect example. Someone can afford to get a premium luxury sedan, the G70, and they can also afford to get a premium truck. And a lot of people are choosing the truck. If we get a huge spike in fuel in the next few years, but you don't think it's going to happen, you know, things could change. We'll have to see. Nicholas says, will Toyota bring the Corolla hatch hybrid to North America? Not sure on that, but they certainly could. And the reason is, this week at the LA show, they just announced that the Corolla sedan hybrid. So yeah, it could totally happen. So that might be an update that we get next year. So you can get the Corolla hybrid soon, coming next year. But a hatchback hybrid could certainly happen, but we haven't heard anything yet. Charles Ng, hey Zach, in your recent memory, what car has the best shifter clutch combo that you've driven under $100,000? Well, it depends on what your definition of clutch and shifter feel is. Some people like it really light, like just the velvety, smooth, easy to drive. I don't particularly like that really spongy clutch feel. I will tell you, the best car I have driven in the last 5 years is the new 911 GT3 Touring. I did a video on it. If you want to go back and watch it, I was absolutely in pure bliss driving that car. So for me, that would be the best. That's not under $100,000, but really any Porsche a manual transmission shifts beautifully. Now, that's what we really need to find out from you. Do you like I like a little bit more feel. I like a little bit more of a definitive pressure point for the clutch. Now, the other side of it is the new 718 Boxster and Spider. I find the clutch feel, they must have a small flywheel because it's very easy to stall those cars with their clutch and transmission setup. So if you want to add something in there, I'll see if I can answer it again. Okay, Charlottetown's asking again, purely on fun to drive, which would you like, the SI or the ILX better? They're both fun. They're different. This is a bit smaller. The ILX is a bit smaller. It's an older platform, but still very well done. The SI has one advantage, and that is it has the adaptive suspension. It's got a sport button or an adaptive suspension button, and it does firm up the shock absorbers. So you have to drive them and see which one you like. I can't decide for you. Both are fun to drive. There's no question about that. This is a little bit smaller, and it doesn't have the adaptive suspension. Ben says, driving a 2015 three-door Mark 7 GTI manual. Love it. I would replace, but VW stopped making them in Mexico. But VW stopped making them in Mexico. Rumors the next gen will be German. No, that's not going to happen. I haven't heard that at all. And I actually asked about that the GTI is going to be repatriated back to Germany, and I got a firm nine. Okay. Jumping around on me again. Martin says, GM Holden in Australia are finished. The only thing holding Ford Australia is the Mustang and the Ranger. You know, we live in such a global world now, and stuff can be shipped around the world with relative ease. And car companies like, your smartphone manufacturer, they go to the cheapest area of assembly, okay? So places like Australia, Canada, even the United States, and certainly in Europe, these are high wage areas. So if you were running a worldwide global company, would you produce cars in a high wage environment or a low wage environment? Human nature is to choose the low wage environment. Excuse me. And Australia, in the car world, is a very small market, okay? Very small. The only advantage that Australia could is if they had a very high value car, like a premium brand, you could ship it maybe to China, but then everybody's making in China. The only advantage Canada has is, of course, we have a new NAFTA agreement, and we're direct neighbors with one of the biggest car markets, the United States. So if we were just on our own, we'd have no manufacturing here either. What would you recommend new or used car for a university student? This is easy. It's the same for anybody that's buying their first car. You can basically buy based on price. If you got $5,000, you go online and you shop for used $5,000 Corolla or Honda Civic. It's really that easy. Amar says, I'm a university student, need to buy a car around $10,000. All-wheel drive is a must here in Calgary. What do you recommend? You don't need all-wheel drive in Calgary. You need good winter tires is what you need. So same thing. You go and buy a Corolla or a Civic, and you spend the extra $1,000 or $1,200 and buy a good set of winter tires on separate wheels. You can get pretty much anywhere with those. Trust me, you don't need all-wheel drive to get around in winter. You need good winter tires and brains. Zach, do you agree with the Motor Trend saying that the CRV is better than the new RAV4? No, I don't think that the new CRV is better than the new RAV4 at all. I think that, and how could they know that? They've had a chance to drive it once. You know, I've driven the CRV a few times, but the RAV4, I drove it for a day and I thought it was fine. And so we have to get them both back to drive them. But I don't see how they would say the CRV is better than the RAV4. Did they, you know, I didn't read the article, so maybe you can enlighten me on that. You know, the RAV4 is the best seller for a reason, because people trust Toyota. That's how that, and they trust Honda as well, but they've had a few issues of late. Since Hyundai revealed the Palisade this week, will Kia fully reveal their Telluride? Yes, it's only a matter of time. So if there was a new vehicle you were waiting for a brand, you just have to wait a little bit longer. I'm noticing a lot of impatience with these new vehicle launches. The cars get announced. They don't come out for months. So just please wait. And the Telluride will be coming. The new Porsche 992 is absolutely gorgeous for the first time since the 993. What are your thoughts? I think what Porsche absolutely nailed with the new 992 is the fender to wheel ratio. And if you look at that car and you look at the overhangs to wheel ratio, so it looks like a 911. But the way that they've incorporated the overhangs at the front and the back and the wheel to fender ratio is kind of getting back to exactly what you're talking about, the 993, in my opinion. It just looks proportionally better. It actually looks a little bit smaller, but the car is actually just a tad bigger. So yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think they did a fantastic job. Here's the thing. The guy who is the head of Porsche the 911 development, he has been for I think 20 years, is now retiring. He's going into semi-retirement in the new year, and he will be transitioning to a new person. So there's going to be a new person taking over Porsche's 911 development. So the good news is with this new 992, we are going to have it for 7 years. It's pretty much a 5 to 7 year cycle. So I can't wait to drive it. As I mentioned, I am going to be driving the new 911 in Spain at the end of January. I already have my ticket. So I can't wait, and I totally agree with you. I think it looks fantastic. What would you say is the top small SUV? Now, I need to know if you're talking about compact SUVs or the new smaller sort of subcompact SUVs. I think right now in the subcompact, in the premium space, I really like the new Q3 that's coming next year. And the new X3 is excellent from BMW if you're going up to a larger class. All of them actually, the GLC, the Q5, and the X3, all three of them are winners. I think they've done a great job with all of them. So you really can't go wrong. It comes down to your preference on those. But I think the winner is the XC40 from Volvo and the new Q3 from Audi. I think those two vehicles are the ones that I would choose in that slightly smaller space. Somebody, Alex Kim says, Hyundai Palisade price in Korea will be about $40,000 Canadian. Do you think the price will be similar in Canada? Here's what you need to do. Go and look at the price of the Hyundai, the Santa Fe XL, the 3-row SUV now. It will not be dramatically different than that. Trust me. So that's a very good gauge for the price. Parm says, when is the video discussing financing versus leasing options coming out? You mentioned making one a while ago. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things I'd love to do. I have to get around to it and make time. But buying a car, this is a good time to do the plug for Car Cost Canada. The picture's up there now. Car Cost Canada, if you've been watching the videos on the channel, you know they're sponsoring the channel. And I have done work for Leasebusters years ago, and the same people that have Leasebusters in the Canadian market also have Car Cost Canada. And so when I was speaking to the owner there, he started telling me about Car Cost Canada, and they walked me through how the system works. And I'm like, if I was buying a car, why wouldn't you use this? So when you go to Car Cost Canada, the first search is free, and you get to find out what the dealer paid for the car. That's the car cost. What was the cost to the dealer to buy that? Now that's very powerful because now you know what they paid for the car, plus any rebates. And there could be rebates for things like a student discount, a senior's discount, a first-time buyer's discount, a veteran's discount. All kinds of things could be included in there. Plus they also show you hidden rebates. There's sometimes rebates that the manufacturer and the dealer know about, but you as a customer don't. That's shown in there, and any reduced interest rates or any other rebates are all shown in there. So the first one is free, and you can get, I think, 5 of them for under $50. Like, think about it. Some of these deals you get, you're going to save thousands of dollars on a car, so why wouldn't you go and do that first? So it makes perfect sense to me. But yes, you're right. I need to do that video. Martin says, Toyota hybrids are great cars with great fuel economy. I didn't know why people aren't buying the Toyota hybrid Camry in great numbers. Be interesting to see how the Toyota RAV4 hybrid sells. Well, I think it comes down to hybrid technology from these brands is moving in the same direction as everybody else. It's moving towards utility vehicles. So a RAV4 hybrid is what people are going to want. The interesting thing in the Camry line is that I think personally, the Camry hybrid is the one to buy. The 4-cylinder is fine. It's been a great product for many, many years. They did a good job with it, no question about it. But when you add in the hybrid technology, it makes it a better car. And the V6 is kind of overkill in this day and age with smaller engines being able to do just as much. How has the Stinger been selling in Canada? I think it's been selling kind of what they thought. They remember last year, it was almost exactly a year ago, they had the launch in California. I was down there for that, and they were expecting to sell maybe 2,000 cars in the Canadian market, and I think that's probably close to where they're going to get. So it's not a big volume car in any way. It just is one of those that if they could sell, 100 to 200 cars across the country per month, they'd be quite happy with that. Looking for a mid-sized truck 4x4. What are your thoughts on the Canyon Colorado? I think the Tacoma is a bit dated interior-wise, and the Nissan Frontier is not high on my list. Well, it's an old product. The Frontier's been around forever. The Canyon and Colorado have one thing going for them that I absolutely love: diesel. And I think that diesel for pickup trucks and utilities is certainly the way to go. The Tacoma, a lot of complaints about the D4S with a 3.5 liter 4-cylinder. It just is a bit lethargic and not that fun to drive. It goes into its most efficient mode more often and feels a bit gutless. It is a Tacoma. What you get with the Toyota is you get an absolute vault when it comes to reselling them. They hold their value. It's crazy. You buy a Tacoma, you drive it for 4 or 5 years, you go to sell it, you get an enormous amount of money back. So that's the advantage for Tacoma. The advantage for Canyon and Colorado, in my opinion, is the diesel, and that's the one I would buy. What do you think about the Forester? I'm looking for a car SUV for my retirement and want to go into parks and off the main roads. Yeah, well, here's the thing about Subaru is that they have in their products 220 millimeters of ground clearance, whether it's the Crosstrek or the Forester or even the Outback. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The new Forester, I think they did a really nice job with. They made the interior much nicer, and that's always been the knock against Subaru is, yeah, they have wonderful all-wheel drive system. They got the rugged look. They have a sort of a cult following, but their interiors were plastic fantastic, and now they could definitely be seen to be putting better interiors, and they are. The other one I want you to try, if you like the Forester, is the larger Ascent. I'm not sure if you have the need for 3 rows and 7 passengers, but I think the turbocharged engine in the Ascent is worth you trying. So just for the engine alone. So try them both out. But if you're going off-road, yes, it's not a bad choice. Zach, I'm currently looking at the new Aviator. Is there any news on the Cadillac competitor? I hear it will be front-wheel drive. Well, I don't know about what Cadillacs, they haven't announced anything yet. The Aviator, Mike just did I always confuse it. No, he did the Nautilus. The Aviator is the one they just showed at the Los Angeles show this week. So I always get the Nautilus, the Navigator, the Aviator mixed up. So the Aviator is the new one. I'm not sure what Cadillac is going with a front-wheel drive car. I wouldn't think so. It's going to be all-wheel drive. Sometimes Cadillac does with their XT5 and their XT4. They offer front-wheel drive for the U.S. market for places like Florida and California where you don't need all-wheel drive at all. But anybody that's buying in northern climate is going to want all-wheel drive, and it will be offered, of course, with that. But yeah, go and watch the video. We did a little quick video from the Los Angeles show. It's already got almost 20,000 views. People are interested in it. And I think the look of this new Lincoln is first rate. They did a very good job with styling. And if it's anything like the new Navigator, really impressive. They're doing some good stuff over at Lincoln. Hello from Montreal, love your shows. Do you think Acura will bring an RDX Type S? I haven't heard anything on that. They're doing A-Spec. What I would like to see from Acura, so A-Spec right now is more of a styling exercise than anything else. I would like them to you know, that's fairly new from them, right? So we haven't had that in the past. So now we've got A-Spec styling package, and that's what the ILX has. And we've seen that in the TLX, and the RDX just came out this year with the A-Spec line. I would like them to differentiate it even more, and that might be what you're talking about there, is they used to have the Type S cars that were really quite special and fun to drive. So I would like them, they could do it with A-Spec, is to add a little bit more on the technology side and engineering side to make them a little bit more performance oriented to drive, not just to look at. I'm in agreement with that. And the one thing I said about the RDX was the adaptive suspension that they have is only on the top trim. It's not on the A-Spec. And the A-Spec is the sporty looking one, but it doesn't get the adaptive suspension. So that's something they can easily change with packaging though, as they head into another model year. Any news on the new 3 Series? The news is the new 3 Series has been announced. It was at the Paris Auto Show, so we have to wait to get our hands on it. Steve Kang says, hey Zach, I'm also enjoying your watch channel too. So if you missed the beginning, I have been negligent over the last year putting new videos out on my watch channel, but over the last few weeks, I've started to do new content. There is new stuff there on my YouTube channel called Watch This. And after this show is done, the live session segment, I will put a link in below for the Watch This channel. So please, if you're into watches, go over there and like that channel as well. Just so you know, I'm wearing my Explorer 2 today. Sean says, I have 2 leased cars since me and my wife work in 2 ends of the city. It might change and we might end up just needing 1. If we are to get rid of one, is LeaseBusters the best option? Any alternatives? No, LeaseBusters is the best option. They've been doing it for a long time. As I said, I have done work for them in the past. It is a good service. I don't think Mike would be upset with me mentioning this. Mike Gurr, the contributor to the channel, as you know, has taken over leases from people. I think his current car is a 3 Series. That was a lease takeover through LeaseBusters. So it is a good service. He has nothing but good things to say about it. It's a good service. So you have to look at the market, see if you have to put an incentive to get somebody to take over your lease. But they even have advisors there that can help you with the process. So yes, it is the place to go to if you're trying to get out of a lease. And it can be done. Mac Daddy, why did FCA always keep their vehicles to the old age before replacing them? I have a 15 Dodge Durango SXT and it hasn't been redesigned. They do minor little tweaks. They do special editions of these vehicles. Here's the thing. It costs billions, not millions, billions of dollars to redo a car, like to do a brand new version of one. And FCA isn't exactly flush with cash. So they have been, Sergio Marchionne, up until his death in July, was always out there beating the bushes trying to come up with a partner to come in with FCA and develop technology. The amount of money that it takes to produce new products is astronomical. That's why you see, for example, so this is an Acura, but Honda has partnered with General Motors for their company Cruise to develop autonomous systems. And spearheading a lot of that autonomous stuff will be in the Canadian Research and Development Center. So So yes, brands come together. You have Subaru and Toyota are developing cars together. So you have Mazda and Toyota developing cars together. Now you have Mitsubishi, an alliance with Nissan and Renault. So all of these companies come together because it's so expensive. So that's why they stretch out these models for as long as they can, because first of all, Durango and Grand Cherokee sell very well. They're high profit for the company, and if they're still selling, they probably think we can just tinker around the edges. I love the Durango. I think it's a great product. It's starting to show its age, but it's still a great product. Salam says, love your show, big fan from Mississauga. Mississauga, the only city with no downtown. Your downtown's a mall. I grew up in Toronto, so I can tease Mississauga. I know you own an A7, and I'm thinking of buying a used 16, 17, most probably the gas version. Any pointers while looking at a used A7? Just buy one. You'll love it. Yeah, our A7, we had a 15. It went away in March. We now have a Cayenne. I love the A7. It is a wonderful car. Now, that generation of A7 is, is now starting to get to the older end of the MMI system. If you look at the new one and you look at that generation, it does look a little bit dated now on the inside. But on the outside, I actually think that generation of A7 is better looking. I think it's a beautiful looking car. I have one, so love it. I think that you need to do, this is what you need to do. If you like the car, go and drive a couple of them and see what you like. Do your due diligence, make sure it's inspected, make sure you do a Carfax. If you can get any insurance information and see there's been any claims on it, please do that. But yeah, it's a wonderful car. Any pointers while looking for one? Not really. I loved it. That was a great car. Zach, what do you think is a good, reliable manual transmission car that's a future classic? Well, I think that classics are so, like, everybody wants a crystal ball. What's going to be the next classic car? Our manual is going to be collectible. Well, to some certain extent, they're going to be. But what makes a classic car something that's valuable? Rarity, desirability, and condition, okay? So if it's a mainline car and there's lots of them, that's not rare. Also, collectability. Is there going to be a lot of people looking for that car? We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. And condition. So if you're going to buy a car and drive it every day and put hundreds of thousands of kilometers on it, well, that's not a low mileage garage queen. That's a car that's being driven every day. So it's not going to be as collectible as something else. There could be an argument made for get the last of the 3 Series or 4 Series manual, but, nobody's buying these cars new, so is there going to be a huge demand for them in the future? I don't know. Manual transmission. You know which car I think is the best car, manual transmission, is Mustang GT. It's just so much fun to drive. Now, that is not scarce. Is it collectible? Yeah, Mustangs are pretty collectible and condition. So that's what you have to think about. What do you think of the new Mazda taking a Volkswagen approach to a semi-independent suspension? I talked about that earlier. The proof is in the driving. I mean, I did talk earlier about the fact that the new Jetta with a torsion beam rear suspension is impressive, I gotta say. So let's wait and see. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt until we drive it. On paper, it looks like a big step backward, but we'll have to wait and see. Christian says, Zach, will VW bring the 4Motion on the Golf hatchback? It could be because of the Mazda 3 bringing it. Yeah, I think it takes nothing for them to do that. It just comes down to cost. So what you need to do is look at the cost of a sport wagon with all-wheel drive, and that's what a Golf hatchback with all-wheel drive would go for. Now, do you think there's a lot of takers at that? I don't know. And here's the thing is, when Volkswagen does bring in a smaller vehicle to the Tiguan, a lot of people will just go right to that instead of the Golf. So we'll have to wait and see. Param says, new Accord or new Camry? These are getting boring, these questions. No disrespect, Param, but I just we get the same questions over and over. I like them both. If I was going to buy the Camry, I would get the hybrid. It's just a better driving car. If I was going to get the Accord, I would get the 2-liter turbo with the 10-speed automatic. Those are the two I like. So what you need to do now is go and drive them and see what you like. I think on terms of styling, I prefer the Accord. A lot of people like the Camry. Interior, for me, easy. It's the Honda Accord wins hands down. I wish VW would have announced more information on the new MEB EV platform. Looking forward to the ID Cross. Well, they have kind of announced it. They're going to have they're going to have different battery packs depending on how much you're going to want to pay. They've talked about the new vehicles that are coming as early as next year. I'm not sure what you want to know other than that. There's no real secret sauce to electric cars. You need electric motors, you need a battery pack, and you build it up from there. But yeah, I think what you're looking for are specifics in terms of pricing and range. We'll get that much closer to the delivery date. What mid-size pickup truck would you buy? My F-150 is a bit big for my new garage. What about the new Jeep Gladiator? That's pretty damn cool. So that's the Wrangler they're making into a pickup truck. That's pretty damn cool. And here's the thing about Wrangler. Off the charts resale value. They hold their value like unbelievably. Actually, Wrangler holds its value better than Tacoma. And Tacoma has crazy resale value. So I would probably go Tacoma just because of the resale value. But when that new Jeep Gladiator comes out, it's pretty damn cool looking too. I really like it. And here's the thing. The new Wrangler is like, so here's the existing Wrangler. The new Wrangler is so much better in every way. So this new pickup, I think, is going to do very, very well. Hey, we have Familia from Argentina. Awesome. South America representing. Thanks for being on board. Adam G. Thanks for doing the giving me $4.99. Nice. Nice. You're asking, do I speak Spanish? I don't, unfortunately. All I can do is, like most Canadians, order a beer when we're on vacation. Apologize for that. Is Mazda ever going to release a diesel engine they promise? Well, nothing was announced at the LA show this week. It's disappointing. They keep saying, I read an article today about the head of engine development for Mazda really does believe that diesel has a role to play, and I totally agree with this. Because in some jurisdictions, depending on where you get your electricity from, electric cars are not the answer. If you're getting electricity off a dirty grid and producing large batteries for cars, sometimes the return on the environmental impact is many, many, many years down the road, where a new efficient vehicle using internal combustion engine can be much less harmful on the environment. So for some jurisdictions, it's good. It has been approved apparently, so we keep on waiting and waiting and waiting, but we'll have to wait some more. It's disappointing because I think that any vehicle that's a utility that has a diesel is fantastic, in my opinion. Have you heard anything about the Honda 1.5 liter turbo oil dilution issue? Yeah, I've heard about it. We talk about it every week on here. I don't have any information to share with you. Next time I'm in the company of somebody from Honda, I will ask them more about it. But yes, I would keep reading more stuff on blogs and forums specifically dedicated to Honda products to find out if there's anything new that's coming, but I haven't heard anything. A7 or A7 or Q8, not this again. Zach, love your channel. Why are car manufacturers making cars bigger each year as your home garage size remains unchanged? It's difficult to make a choice in a car purchase. You got to find something smaller. Here's what happens. We've seen it over and over. The 3 Series by BMW got bigger and bigger and bigger. The current 3 Series is the same size as the 5 Series was, the E39 5 Series that was sold up until 2003. Okay, so what did they do? They brought in the 1 Series, then replaced by the 2 Series. You know, and that's what happens. As cars get bigger, they just bring in another model. But yeah, one outlier, the one that pops out of my mind was a few years ago, not this current generation Accord, the one before, they actually made it a little bit smaller. It takes a really brave car executive to come up with a new car that actually gives you less than the old car. And I think that's really all it comes down to, is that, okay, we're gonna introduce a brand new car. It's got less. That doesn't sell. So the good news is, as vehicles get bigger, often they're replaced by smaller vehicles with a new name. This is from, hey Zach, what do you think about Honda going more towards turbos in their sedans? Well, there's two ways to go about this. I mean, we're seeing a very marked difference between the two main Japanese players. Smaller turbocharged four-cylinder engines, larger naturally aspirated four-cylinder engines with more tricks to get them to be efficient. Continuously variable transmission, 8-speed automatic. Now Honda, granted, does have 8, 9, and 10 speeds as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see. And now the smaller turbocharged phenomenon is not just for those two brands. It's been going on for a long time. Almost every premium brand now has a 2-liter turbo. It seems to be the entryway. And by the way, the new GLE, the new Mercedes GLE that's coming, so most of the video that I drove, I had the new inline turbo 6-cylinder, but the next day when we were driving to the airport, I had a chance to drive the 2-liter turbo in the GLE, and I thought it was going to suck and suck bad. It was so good. It was excellent. So I really have to hand it to Mercedes with that engine. They did a fantastic job. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's just different ways of going about it. And it's all to save fuel and to meet emissions targets. I'm looking for Latin America friends who live in Canada to help me emigrate. Well, this isn't the place for that. I don't think that, a car live blog is the way to find out about emigrating to a new country. But good try. That's all the time we have. So once again, I am going to put the link in below to my watch channel. I'd love you to go over there and subscribe. I'm going to be driving the e-tron next week in Abu Dhabi. I've never been to the Middle East before. That's cool. I'm going to be driving the new 911 in January. I can't wait to do that. And if you want to go to Instagram, look up Motormouth_auto and go to the Facebook and like it, because I do put a lot of articles on there. And you just type into Facebook Motormouth and you'll find it there. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Zach Spencer. Be patient on the new car releases. The cars will come in time. They don't announce the cars at auto shows and release them the next day. It's not the way it works. So pump the brakes on that. We'll speak to you next week. Have a great rest of your weekend.